Fridays. 103.5 KLITE.
Do you ever or did you ever feel pressured when Valentine's Day comes around? I mean, the minute that February comes in, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Did you ever?
absolutely, absolutely.
And how do you deal?
But then, having said that, I think it's a time. It's dependent on your age, your where you are in your relationship. Because when I was much younger, I used to really look forward to it, because that's the time where you could get away with you look forward to and you would plan your. And then, like I said earlier before the break, it was just especially when you start having kids and stuff, and it starts feeling a bit too commercial. I feel sometimes the same way about Christmas. I love Christmas. It's like one of my favorite, or the favorite holiday, I think, for me. But when it starts to feel like, sanang gifts ko, sanang ano ko, then it takes the sincerity out of it. Yeah. And that's when I'm like, okay, well, no, that's not fun anymore. It's not fun when you just really just have to tick boxes. I have to get for this, I have to get for that. It has to come from the heart. If it doesn't come from the heart, it just does feel overly commercialized.
I agree. I felt pressure back in high school and in college.
High school.
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
No, but
if you don't have a date,
exactly. If
And
you
that
don't
was
have a
what,
date,
5-10
wow,
years ago?
no naman. Bagong shave lang ako,
James
pero.
Oh.
See, that's what happens when you get brushed with Doug Kramer.
But yeah, I have to agree. It depends on your time in the relationship, how long you've been together. But there's actually a moment, or really a season, when you have to put your best foot forward na talaga. Like, I think it comes at the 5th or the 6th year of the relationship.
Right.
But okay.
7-year itch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To prepare for the 7-year itch. But there's a point in the relationship where you have to be all out in these these holidays like Valentine's. And I think for me that's the 6th or the 5th year.
Okay, for those of you who don't know what the 7-year itch is, just Google it.
And
Marilyn Monroe.
It happens.
It does happen.
It happens.
And it does happen.
Yeah.
And there are, you know what they say, when you pass the 7-year itch, you're going to be good.
I don't know about
I don't know if you
that.
guys
I don't think so.
You don't believe in the 7-year itch?
I do believe in the 7-year itch. And the 8 and the 9. And no, I'm just kidding.
I think it resets.
No. I think there's if you're going to, definitely there's a cycle, and I think 7 years is probably a fair cycle for most people. That's why they gave it that term. But I think that once I can't agree with that. Once a 7-year itch, you're good, because I think that you will face a whole different set of problems, because midlife crisis is coming up, menopause. What's the male pause? What's the male menopause? There's actually a term.
There is.
I forget what
I just call it male menopause.
Yeah, well, let's call it male menopause for now, but there's a term for that. You're just going to have challenges always. That's what a marriage is. That's what any relationship is.
I agree. Yeah.
And it's. I was doing a talk the other day, and they were asking not about relationships per se, but more about, I guess, in business or life, about being successful or maintaining your success, etc. And I was a little bit, of course, I was terribly flattered by they were asking me, because I was thinking, these people I'm talking to seem to be more successful than I am. I mean, they were top executives of one of the top blue chip corporations in this country. And I was like, what do I tell them that they don't know? I didn't even finish school. So what am I going to tell these people? And I was really intimidated. And eventually, as I started to work it through my head, I said, it's about, I think the key, at least for me, is being able to adapt. Because you can't really learn. You can study, and that's going to help you, but you can't study for something in 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time. The power comes from being able to adapt. This is why cockroaches, as they say, will survive. Not because they're stronger than lions and turtles or whatever, because they can adapt. So everything's about that. The world is changing. Relationships change, life changes. How do you adapt? So if you're going to teach anything, teach coping mechanisms and how to adapt to different situations.
This is the dating spectrum now. I mean, the way love is expressed now is completely different from that of 5-10 years ago.
And you have to ride out those changes, because those might be temporary things. I mean, like some pregnancies are a lot more difficult than others, right? And you can go through hormonal changes, postpartum depression. These are genuine things. And 20 years ago, this wasn't spoken about much in this country. And if you were like not completely enthralled and happy to have your child, something wrong with you. You're a horrible person. But there are genuine mothers who have postpartum depression that can't control how they feel it. They can't stop crying. That, of course, will have an impact on the husband. The husband might lose a job or might be passed up for promotion, go through a bit of a depression there. You might lose a loved one. All these things nobody can predict. So you know, definitely you're going to have a 7-year itch and you're going to have so many different ones thrown at you. And that commitment is what's supposedly going to keep you together.
And that for me is the essence of Sabinat and Valentine's. I mean, it's being able to show your love, not just on a specific day, but on, you know, days to come.
Yeah.
You know, and even on a regular day, especially on your bad days. I think for me, trials of a relationship will always be how you deal with the negative impacts of what your surroundings throw at you. You know, the different tests, sabihin natin. There are so many tests in a marriage. It's not just, you know, it's not just about fidelity. It's about financial, financial stability and all that kind of stuff. It's being able to still remain connected to your significant other. And that is, for me, personally, is being able to show that on a daily basis is, well, my Valentine's. My gift to my significant other.
Can I try to compare this to something? I'm just thinking of it now, so forgive me if it sounds a little raw, hilaw. You know, I'm not hating, or certainly not hating on, I'm not even picking on Valentine's Day per se, because it's just how we chose to approach it. Everyone's different. But I think it's like when you have your kid's graduation day, that means absolutely nothing if you weren't there to help your kid.
Correct.
That's just a ceremony to not legitimize, acknowledge, But it only means something. We all get teary-eyed because of the 5 years or the 10 years or whatever years that you were waking them up and making them do their homework. So it's just that celebration. It gives it a formal celebration to acknowledge the hard work and everything. And then it means something. But if you only show up on graduation day, but you weren't there for your kid for the whole 5, 8, 10, 15 years or whatever it was, it's just
doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, and then you're like, oh damn, I gotta get a suit and go attend my graduation. Then of course so if you're just doing the Valentine's for that to tick that box because everyone else is doing it, then I think it's meaningless. But if you are committed to each other for the 12 months of that year, and it's like, you know what, this is a day to celebrate our love. I don't care if it's commercialized, then go. That's to each his own.
Because there are some people who actually consider, well, Valentine. Like I said, we're not hating on Valentine's. We're just giving out our opinions. And there's a lot of people that dislike. I don't want to say hate, but they.
I would think there are some that
that hate Valentine's.
Yeah, I mean, and this is not just Valentine's. This is Christmas. This is anytime there's a celebration like this of it can induce depression for others because of the comparison, and this is something that I think some people feel who are not the singles, for example. Some singles just laugh it off and brush it off. It's not a problem at all. Some really take, like there are people in the prom who don't get asked to the dance. That can be a traumatic experience. Some just is part of life. Some it just highlights that the fact that nobody wants. It's a tricky thing, especially as you remember these traditions were set out when? I can't remember when Valentine's was set out, but it's definitely a few hundred years old, right? Right, I would think. Somebody Google it and tell us, but it's not the last 50 years or 60 years.
Oh, no, definitely.
We're talking hundreds of years. Sometimes they go back to medieval times, even if you're going to, it's different. The population was different. So now we're all different. You have to appeal to more people, more sensitivities, more emotions, more spectrums of life. We're not all the same. We're not all. So there's going to be somebody out there that's going to feel very depressed, and these holidays become a reminder for that. So, I mean, hey, enjoy it. Don't rub it into the people who can.
Rub it in.
Is it ever a chore? That's the thing. I mean, Coach, did you
I think it gets to be. It gets to be when when you get to the point that James had a good point. And if it's something that you just do it as a routine, like, okay, it's February 14, you got to get the girl something. But if that's the only time when you show your appreciation or show your affection, then it becomes rather fake to me. So, but for me personally, I was pressured before, and there was a time that I actually said to my wife, I think she was my wife back then, na okay, let's just celebrate on another day. But to her, and this is interesting because I didn't look at it this way. To her, sige nga, you're sweet to me the entire 365 days of the year. Why can't you be extra special during this day when everybody else is doing the same thing? Parang why am I not special enough in that sense that you're gonna go out of your way, that even if it's traffic, even if it's more expensive, even if it's a hassle, am I not worth that to actually do that and show your affection for me? So I saw it in a different way after that. Na parang, okay, sige, I get what you're saying. It's still a hassle. but
At the end of the day.
at the end of the day, it's still a hassle. But I do get what she was saying now. Okay, she wants to feel special during this day. And again, this is a mother of 3 talking. So it's different. I'm assuming it's going to be different for other women out there, and it really will depend on their situation. But again, here she was back then she was a housewife, and then she was always at home. So she wanted to have a day wherein she didn't feel like just being just.
It was
a mom.
about her.
Yeah, she wanted the day that was about her. She wanted a day when she could be pampered, when she didn't need to think about the kids.
It's about guy.
You know, so parang-
Mother's Day.
yeah.
If it's Mother's
Yeah,
Day,
it's
and
similar to, let's
it's
say,
about
Mother's Day.
you and breakfast in bed and all that. And it's a day where you can put your feet up. I get that.
Yeah.
And I think just to add one quick thing to what Chappie said and what we're really discussing here, just make sure that you're both on board with this, because if one of you feels that it's pilit and the other one doesn't, well, here's some foolproof advice: always give in to the woman. Actually, that works for anything. Just always concede and just
Doesn't
say.
matter what it is.
It doesn't matter. It's a blanket rule. You can apply it.
yes.
Just say yes. So only if your woman says it's not important to me. Actually, that's not even true, because those are one of those trick questions.
No, it's
Well,
okay.
it's okay. It's okay. Oh, if they say it's okay, take her out.
But if she says it's fine,
Take her out twice. Take her out to a really nice place.
Yes.
No, I think if she brings it up first, then definitely, once again, communication. Talk to each other, not just on the day, but all throughout the year. And hey, if you both are on board with it and you want to sort of sit it out and do the 12th, the 13th, 16th, whatever you want, that's up to you guys. What makes you happy?
oh my goodness, this is
Malalim ba?
Malalim ang
ba?
Valentine's, guys.
so deep.